uh, which means that this is not a sustainable model for the trade. Uh, Janab, sir,
Thank you
Raja.
very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Very kind for your remarks and all that. Let's be very honest first. We will just, I would like to give you a brief feeling of the trades and industry that we are feeling in actually Pakistan, what is happening with this budget. As you have seen that the government has claimed that there will be no new taxes on the existing taxpayer. So we were very glad on that, because the reason is that we felt that those who are paying taxes, I can actually say that yes, there are few who may not be giving the true taxes to the government, but they are giving taxes. That is something that you have to realize, that in COVID-19, still with the COVID-19, the revenue went up. And I would like to just say here that the ratio that we have found and the custom duties uh, around it is 1/10 has increased. Similarly, within this sale tax, 1/3 taxes have gone up. In income tax also around 1/6 ratio has gone up. And within this all, what is happening is that in the world, the economies are going down, but in Pakistan, the export also to the some extent, which is not remarkable, but it is hovering around the same volume, but it is not coming down, which is a positive sign, because in most of the countries, exports are very badly affected. So the government perhaps thought this time that the businesses are doing very well, and there is a lot of space of getting more revenue out of them. But the mere fact is that in economy, except few sectors, I can name those sectors like textile, and that too, which is based on the export side, basically. And that I really do not want to go into this detail, but I will only say that the China and India and Bangladesh, they had given us a space. Sir, you're listening me? Excuse me?
Ji, sir, loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Okay, okay, okay.
We can listen.
So those orders which were actually supposed to be delivered by these countries, somehow or other, by virtue of the less affected COVID area, we were diverted, and we did well on that. Similarly, in case of few other small export sectors like this leather industry, we did little bit good. But the mere fact is that the government is no who is focusing on this, that the all is well, which is not. All is not well. One has to be very realistic, and I always say that you must work on realism. And the realism is that this turmoil still exists in Pakistan, and it's a only sigh of relief that we have got. And with the help of Almighty Allah, I think there is a positive developments which we can make with the government. But if government believes that
Dr. Ashir Saab, I think there is link problem.
हाँ लिंक प्रॉब्लम ये उनके एंड के ऊपर है लिंक प्रॉब्लम let's wait for 30 seconds so he may rejoin us so he may complete his talk वो उनकी कॉल आई है, वो रीज्वाइन कर रहे हैं. ज्वाइन कर चुके. डॉक्टर अतीक जफर साहब, मेरा ख्याल है कि इट मे टेक कपल ऑफ मिनट्स. उन्होंने कॉल तो की थी कि मैं रीज्वाइन कर रहा हूँ, उनको इंटरनेट की कोई कनेक्टिविटी का इशू है. Raja Amir Saab, he was talking about the जो what the private sector is facing, और जो realism जो है ना different है, जो है ना और all is not well in context with the private sector, or there is an immediate need for the rationalization of tax regimes, not only tax regimes but the tariff and non-tariff barriers which exist in our economic system, which are creating a barrier for the private sector to take a competitive leverage. तो इन द मीन वाइल वो ज्वाइन करेंगे. डॉक्टर अतीक जफर साहब डीन है फैकल्टी ऑफ सोशल साइंसेज के रिफा इंटरनेशनल यूनिवर्सिटी में. आपसे गुजारिश है तो प्लीज़ अपनी जो है ओपिनियन शेयर करें.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rashid Aftab, for giving me chance to discuss some things related to budget. You have gathered people and representatives from all sectors of the society. We are having parliamentarians, we have representatives from chambers of commerce, from academia, and from media. So all important sections are represented here. I would like to just discuss few points from theoretical perspective, because from practical side, Dr. Waqar from SPPI, he has talked many important points, and Raja Amir, hopefully he will continue his presentation. This budget is in general considered as a relief budget, that wages and pension and salaries have increased, taxes are announced to be reduced, and different sectors of the economy are given incentives, agricultural sector and manufacturing sector and services sectors. So in principle, people said that this is a relief budget. Some said it is a political budget. Before election, government want to gain popularity from the masses. So details we can hear from the experts. But one thing everyone feel, and the most important problem pointed out related to our economy, is increasing burden of debt and debt servicing. In this budget, 3,060 billion are allocated out of total current expenses of 7,523 billion, which is around 40% of the current expenses. And this burden is increasing day by day. So how to face this problem. As we know that domestic debt is almost double the foreign debt. And domestic debt is between government and institutions, government and public, and government is paying an interest rate higher than what banks are offering to their depositors through national savings schemes and different certificates, etc. So this problem, as it is increasing, may become unmanageable after a few years. So there is need to think about abolishing interest from the economy. It is not only a religious matter and important from religious point of view, but also from economic point of view, need is arising to abolish interest from the economy and move towards interest-free modes, which now very effectively available. And banking sector is working without involving interest. We have very successful experience of Islamic banking, not only in Pakistan, but in many other Muslim as well as non-Muslim countries. Islamic banking is working. Another source which government is using now is Sukuk. Sukuk for different purposes have been offered by government of Pakistan and Malaysia, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, and many countries, even Germany. They are using Sukuk for raising funds and financing for different projects. Sukuk are Islamic alternative to interest-based debt bonds, which are debt instruments. So government is still using in a very limited area this instrument. So there is need to increase the scope of using Sukuk, which is interest-free, and these are project-related instrument, and also to reduce the rate of interest in the economy for reducing the debt servicing burden. Normally, as we know as theoreticians, that quantity theory of money is presented as a reason for increasing interest rate, that when interest rate will increase, it will curb the demand and money supply will decrease, and therefore inflation will come under control. But this theory has become redundant and no one accepts this theory, and data shows that there is no regular relationship between rate of interest and inflation in economies. So interest rate in Pakistan is still much higher than interest rate in many other developed countries and developing countries. So there is need to reduce interest rate. It will provide an stimulus for the economy. Business activities will increase and the burden of debt servicing will also increase. Which I would like to point out is our social sector. Pakistan is suffering from poverty, and almost 50% of the population is reportedly said that living below the poverty line. Government is trying to reduce poverty through Ehsaas program and by establishing Panaga type facilities. And government has declared almost 250 billion rupees for these programs for poverty reduction. This program is again being financed by getting funds from World Bank and other institutions in the form of loan. And because these expenses are non-productive, so it will further increase the debt burden of the economy. As an alternate, we know system of zakat is found in Islam, and in Pakistan in 1980, system of zakat and ushur was introduced. Unfortunately, it is not working efficiently in document. It is still available and surviving, but practically system is not working. Only up to a limited level, zakah is being deducted from the banks on 1st of Ramadan and then dispersed through different institutions. But the complete system which was introduced earlier is not functional. There is a great potential available. Even people pay zakah, but because this zakah is paid without any system, so it creates no impact. But if government collects zakah and ushur through in a systematic manner and disperse on merit basis, it has a lot of potential. I would like to quote one expert, Mr. Khalid Khalil. He is a chartered accountant and he has made presentation at various places. And according to him, the only potential of zakah is 2,100 billion rupees. And if we include ushur also, so it increased to 3,600 billion. So if zakah and ushur is collected in a systematic manner through an institutional mechanism, it can do a lot for reduction of poverty in the economy. But it is very unfortunate that these Islamic systems which are available, government is not putting any, you can say, effort for revival of these institutions in the economy. It can solve our problem of the poverty and can improve the economy to large extent. So these are few points I would like to contribute. I think Raja Amir has already joined, so we would like to listen him. Thank you very much, Dr. Rashid Aftab, again, and welcome to all who are present in this seminar.
Dr. Atiq Zafar Saab, thank you. Thanks for your very in-depth analysis of the budget. You have rightly spoken about the overall it looks that it's a relief budget, taxation reduction, incentives for the various sectors. It may be regarded as a political budget. I think they have to give one more budget before leaving the office if it is like this. And I think the most important aspects you have referred is the huge the debt servicing expenditure, and this is I mean this is unbelievable that our domestic debt is double than the external debt, and its sustainability is a really challenge for our to sustain our economic system. I think one more important, two more important aspects which you have indicated is the approach for the issuance of Islamic debt instruments. So that can be a source for our financial mobilization. And the last but not least, that since if we define the poverty in terms of the definition of the poverty, which is right now, I think the $2 per day per person, about 50% of the population is living below poverty line. So the only possible approach for reduction of the poverty is to institutionalize our zakat and ushur system, through which the poverty can be eradicated from the country. Thank you, Dr. Saab. Now again, back to Raja Amir Saab, from that point of view that all is not well.
Thank you very much, sir. Extremely apologize that the link went away. So anyhow, coming back to this, that I think what we are thinking in our circle is that this budget will be a very tough budget, because to us it is again written on a ad hocism, and ad hocism is focused on how to make more and more revenues. That's a question mark. That is that the government believes that as all is well, so they can grab more and more taxes from the economy. So we don't mind by saying this, unless there is some structural reform inbuilt within the budget to grab and to add new taxpayer in the tax net. That is the major thing which is actually lacking in budget. They say so, and they're posturing that no, we will not put a burden on the existing taxpayer. But practically, what we have seen in past also, that all laws which are being devised, actually they're devised for the FPR as a leverage to squeeze the existing taxpayer. That is a big fear that we have in our minds. Other than this, if they succeed in attracting new taxpayer, be very honest, we will be the first one who be very happy, clapping for the government that they have added up a tax net and broadened the tax net or the base of the tax net. But we have a fear. There's a question mark. Why we have a fear is that the constituency of the Ministry of Finance, or for that matter, the finance portfolio is that you get the revenue out of economy, the business people basically. And on the face of it, if you declare that the business people are thieves, then how can we trust them? Because this section 203A to H, which is being built in within the budget bill, it says that the one ITO of any regional tax office has been empowered, given a delegated powers by the Board of Revenue, that he or she on her own judgment. That's a very ridiculous, because they say that on their own judgment, they can go and arrest anybody for that matter. And then it is not only this, but they say that they will be not given a bail. It's a non-bailable offense. It is again, not a warrant is required to be issued on that. And then you will be penalized, and then you have to deposit the whatever the tax demand has been raised against that person. And then you can come back and then you can contest in the court of justice. And after 3-4 years, even if you prove that this was a false documentation, or the judge, the evidence that ITO had was a wrong one, there's no plenty or any punishment for that ITO. This is a ridiculous law that they have introduced, which has actually upset and given a panic in the business cycles of the Pakistan economy. Coming to second thing is that all is well. If the government says all is well, our question is that if all is well, then why you are replacing the Minister for Finance? It is your third Minister for Finance, the fourth Secretary Finance, and every time there is a drum beating. So there is the realism is that you have to accept, you don't have to go to the same old path, because this is your third budget, then the next is your election budget. So you will only do which is only beneficiary to you to get some votes out of the election. What we say is that you must bring a structural reforms, like what Dr. Waqar has pointed out very rightly, and we believe in that in light of the CPAC development, there is a scarcity of the human resource, a skilled workforce in Pakistan. There's nothing which has been given any structural reform there, that you have spending some sizable allocation has been given for the youth of Pakistan, which has been set as a strength for Pakistan. As you remember, sir, that we all the Pakistan qualified back in 2005 in Next 11 based on this. And this is how we are treating our youth today. So we believe that unless there is a compatible workforce being trained inside Pakistan, this CPAC development also will not fetch that ramification or consequences which we believe is a potential there to benefit Pakistan economy. Because what will happen is that what is happening today is that the Chinese say to you that you don't have that compatible workforce in Pakistan. So we are forced to bring the Chinese inside Pakistan. So we say that you have to work on that. Second is, in this budget, the non-tax revenue, it is again alarming for us, because you see that the non-tax revenue, which is around 1.5 trillion now, and they are thinking of bringing it up to 2 trillion plus. So that is if the government claims that there will be no further burden on the consumers of the petroleum items in Pakistan. So from where will you get this? That's a question mark for us. That means that the government is going to raise the fees, the licenses fees and other this electricity tariff they have promised, but we are sure that they will make it because this is minus 23% growth in the electricity is alarming in this last year. So it is we have also seen circular debt piling up to 2.6 billion. So this all is not well. This has to be transferred to the industry, to the business people. What is happening is that if I asked you, it's an open question to the government that you are charging us 16 pence per unit of industry in Pakistan, whereas in our neighbor, it is 8 pence US dollar per unit in China and in India. So once this circumstances changes in our region, what we are foreseeing is that this export will be hampered because their industry once commence working on a regular basis. So they are cheap, they are more cost effective than us because of not our fault, it is because of the government policies. So we are saying that they should bring some structural changes in the policy rather that they work on the ad hocism. Then we also believe that if there is not a change being made in the budget, which we have taken up very seriously, and Senate Chairman Tala Mahmood has been very kind that he has given us a hearing also a few days back, and the Senate Committee on Finance, Revenue and Economy has recommended our recommendations to the National Assembly. But National Assembly is not binding on to accept those recommendations. That's a question mark, and we believe that the Minister for Finance and the government of Pakistan will give a proper heed to our recommendations. Similarly, we believe that if this has not been done, the deficit, the fiscal deficit, which has been depicted at 6.3 is going to go up. And if that goes up, that means that the prices are linked in a sense that inflation will go up because the purchasing power of the rupee will decline. So the cost of doing business in Pakistan, in other words, will surge up. So that will make us more difficult to compete in the region. So we say that this PSDP, which has been given 900 plus 64 billion at federal level, and then at the other level also make to be at a rational level, because you see that you invest with a rational, if it gives you something in terms of some structural benefits in a long run to the economy of Pakistan, that's good enough. But if you put this money in land, in construction, in just showing that we are as good as that the PMLN was, and we are moving the things, this gimmicks will bring employment on just a short-term basis, not on a long-term basis. What we say that the government should put the money in industrial developments, in industrial parks like this CPAC, SEZs. It is ridiculous to know that only rupees 10 billion has been allocated by the government in this budget. 10 billion rupees, it's a meager money, it's a peanut that you will put for the infrastructure and the development of the special economic zones. So this is where the government needs to put more money, and similarly in the human development, especially the youth, the skilled workforce, we want that they should put more money there. Similarly, we want that the energy sector, which is actually the one of the major sector of cost in any industry that you name it, needs to be revamped in structural policies, not on ad hoc basis, because you see that you say they didn't work anything on the transmission lines, they did nothing on the transmission system. So what you have done in last 3 years, if you haven't done it, please do it this time. put money there because that will bring some sort of a relief to the overall unit cost of electricity in Pakistan, because the wastage will be reduced, the theft will be reduced, the line losses will be reduced. So we are saying that you put money there. And similarly, in the hydro dams ventures, you put money there. But I'm sorry to say that if I come to the other points of the taxes, which I would like to just highlight, that what the Rawalpindi Chamber and the Federation of Pakistan Chamber of Commerce and Industry has recommended, you will be astonished to know few things, which is very, very, I think, negative under the COVID-19 scenario. One is that they are saying that 11,000 point of sale, 11,000 point of sale, the POS, which is a track and trace system, automated track and trace, the track and trace system, which has been actually only 11,000 connections since 2016 been made till 2021. Now they are saying that we will make in 12 months, just in 12 months, we will make them 5 lakh more such automation system across Pakistan. Now, what will happen is that the big chains or the branded companies can afford, but if you will went up to the SMEs, they will not compete to the smaller and the black economy, because once you will put 17% sale tax on them, we are not against that. What we are saying is that you do it gradually, because under the scenario of a COVID-19, if you put so harsh steps to implement, practically are not implementable, will bring a rift between the government and the traders in the markets, which will bring a very negative sentiments to the markets. And once a negative sentiments will come to the market, over our this revenue will be disturbed, what you are getting. So similarly, what they are saying is that the turnover tax, which was 0.25% of total turnover on the atta mills, has been increased to 1.5%. No, flour mills, where you have seen last year also the atta went to what level, from 35 rupees kg to 80 rupees kg. Now you are saying that we will put this 600 times more tax on the flour mills. So once you will put a 600 times more tax on flour mill, what will happen? A poor of the poorest segment of the society will be deprived of the stable food, which is your chapati. So we really do not know where they are putting the money. Similarly, they say that there was a 1% tax on the jewelry, and now they are saying this 1% sale tax will increase to 17%. For God's sake, if you were paying 1% and now you are saying 17%. I think what we have realized is that the government believes that there is a way forward to squeeze the business people and get the maximum revenue out of them. I think they are totally mistaken, because if you walk into the markets, if you accept 2, 3, 4 sectors, then you will come to know what is happening in market. I know personally, when going to Lahore, Faisalabad, Gujranwala, and other parts of Pakistan, the people, believe me, sir, they claim that they have been putting the salaries of their employees out of their pockets for the last so many months. It is only recently, in the last 4 or 5 months, the things are moving towards positive side. So once the things are moving towards positive side, this is a time that you must support your businesses, rather that you put more burden on them in shape of those possible scenario. And similarly, I will say that this NFC, which is 3.412 trillion, I think the government also have a very, very limited space, because the size of cake has shrunk to the level that expenditures are too much and the debt repayments that you are paying are too huge. And then you can see that the defense and the pension and the federal government expenditure, if you add up this all, this revenue is even not enough to feed these basic things, basic heads. But you are adamant on putting 964 billions for the PSDP. So that means that you are putting expenditure at a surge, whereas your income in realism, I'm saying in realism, hasn't increased to that level. But in your own thinking, you believe that the business people will be squeezed and you will be able to accumulate this much target of 5.8 trillion tax collection from them. I think that is not possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raja Amir Saab. To be honest, a very realistic analysis of the budget. You have highlighted some of the key issues which are very much relevant. Whether there is a need of structural reforms, the present approach of adhocism. There is a need of increase the tax to GDP ratio, and as well as broaden the tax net. There exists the trust deficit between the government and the engine of the growth, who are the engine of growth in any of the countries, obviously the private sector or the businesses which are responsible for generating the employment and adding the value to the raw material and exporting it. The threatening thing is this: the sort of absolute power which exercised by the tax official on the basis of the judgment, which means the approach is that you are guilty, now prove otherwise. The cost of doing business is extremely high, and that leads to that gives a compromised the position with respect to the Pakistani business when we are gauged on the competitiveness index. And I think you have rightly indicated there is a need of gradual approach instead of a drastic approach, so that the business may be sustained. Business must be flourish. If there are no business from whom you are going to collect the taxes. So thank you very much. Jazakallah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
After Amir Saab, now we have Mr. Qasid Ahmed Saab. Qasid Ahmed Saab is from the private sector, associated with the food industries and with the Mashoom Enterprises. He is a member of Haripur Chamber of Commerce, Food and Industries in Hatar. I hope he is going to give some more aspects which may reflect that what is the state of affairs at the industry of any level, whether it's a SME level or at the larger manufacturing level, and how this budget can help them or may create a barrier for them. Ji Qasid Saab.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you, Dr. Rashid Aftab Saab and Kashif Zaid Saab, for giving me this chance.
I request Qasid Saab, I request for short deliberations, because so many other speakers have. Thank you. Jazakallah.
I have a very short presentation. I will try to submit and close it in very precise time. And my presentation is very short and concise, and because I am a food technologist, and I will try to remain focused on food and agriculture sectors and challenges and some of my outputs. तो पूरी प्रेजेंटेशन में मैं 3 चीजों पे फोकस करूंगा. सबसे पहले तो बजट में कुछ ना कुछ तो पॉजिटिव चीजें हैं, उसके हवाले से मैं कोशिश करूंगा कि चीजें हो जाएं, और दूसरा ये कि इसमें ड्रॉबैक्स क्या हैं जो मेरे नजदीक हैं, और तीसरा होगा कि सजेशंस क्या हैं. तो first of all के budget has value of 8.49 trillions का increase, उसमें जो last budget से 700 billions है. Growth rate जो target किया हमने वो 4.8% है, और जो deficit अभी तक ही है वो 6.3%. और इसमें जो development का funds है वो 630 billion से 900 पे किया है. मैं बहुत ज़्यादा facts and ये figures नहीं बताना चाहूँगा, क्योंकि we have a number of participants and they will share their experiences and they will I hope कि वो काफ़ी सारे figures बताते रहेंगे. तो इसलिए इसको मैं अपने sectors के वाले से agriculture और food पे focus करते हुए ही चीज़ों को लेके चलूँगा. इसमें पाकिस्तान faces inflation that too many मुझे सुन रहे हैं आप? आवाज
जी बिल्कुल वाज़ेह आ रही है आवाज आपकी.
जी जी,
आवाज भी आ रही है, तस्वीर भी आ रही है.
थैंक यू जी. Pakistan faces inflation and that too mainly on food commodities, as Pakistan has become more food deficient country. As in international market the wheat prices also increases, and in our country also it rose into 29%, and crude oils 180% increase in international market, and according to our budget 45% is increase in our local market in Pakistan. And similarly sugar prices raises into 56%, and in our local market they are claiming that they rose into 18%. And other thing that export decreases from 8% of GDP from 12%, जो कि 5-7 साल पहले हमारी 12% थी, वो हमारी अब 8% पे आ गई है. हमारा अगला इशू फूड सिक्योरिटी का है. Although there is increase in the production of the wheat, sugar cane and rice, still we are facing the deficit of food and food security issue in the country. जो पॉजिटिव थिंग्स हैं सबसे पहले मैं उनको वन बाय वन करके हाईलाइट्स करूंगा, और उसके बाद कुछ नेगेटिव थिंग्स होंगी, और फिर मैं अपना कंक्लूजन दे दूंगा. इसमें पॉजिटिव थिंग जो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई थिंक दैट कि गवर्नमेंट एक्नॉलेज दैट दे आर फूड डेफिसिट कंट्रीज. अक्सर इस तरह होता है कि बजट्स में ये चीज़ें प्रेजेंट नहीं की जाती, तो कम अज़ कम एक्नॉलेज कर लिया कि हम फूड डेफिसिट है और हम इसके लिए काम करेंगे. सेकंड के काफ़ी सारी चीज़ों में फोकस ऑन एग्रीकल्चर की बात की गई है इस बजट में, कि हम फोकस करेंगे कि एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर को किस तरह डेवलप किया जाए. थर्ड वाज कि कमोडिटी के बारे में बात की है कि वेयर हाउसिंग का सिस्टम किया जाए, क्योंकि हमारी कमोडिटी पेरिशेबल कमोडिटीज और अदर कमोडिटीज में वेस्टेज बहुत ज़्यादा है. एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्ट्स में सबसे बड़ा हमारा प्रॉब्लम वेस्टेज का आ रहा है, जो हम पहले सुन रहे थे कि 25% है, लेकिन वो अब फ्रूट एंड वेजिटेबल में अगर आप स्पेशली देखें तो 40% तक हमारे वेस्टेज चले गए. और स्पेशली जो उसमें बात की गई कि कोल्ड स्टोरेज के लिए गवर्नमेंट फैसिलिटेट करेगी, तो कोल्ड स्टोरेज का जो हमारा इशू है ये बड़ा ही जेन्युइन है, क्योंकि हमारी बेशुमार क्रॉप्स हैं नॉर्दर्न एरियाज में, फ्रूट्स हैं, वेजिटेबल्स हैं, और जस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ अनअवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ कोल्ड स्टोरेज वो ज़ाया हो जाती हैं. फिर होलसेल मार्केट का जो बात की गई है उसमें एक उन्होंने कहा है कि जो फार्मर से और कंज्यूमर के दरमियान प्राइस का जो डिफरेंस है इसको कंट्रोल करने के लिए काम किया जाएगा. और फॉर फूड सिक्योरिटी ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन प्लान की बात की गई है. एक जो अनदर पॉइंट सी पैक है वो फूड एंड एग्रीकल्चर से इस तरह रिलेट कर रहा है कि जब हमारा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बेहतर हो जाएगा तो हमारी मूवमेंट और अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल टू द इंडस्ट्री एंड टू द कंज्यूमर इजी हो जाएगी. इसलिए मैं उसको भी इसके पॉजिटिव पॉइंट्स में ले रहा हूँ. बजट एलोकेट किया गया फूड सिक्योरिटी के लिए, इन्होंने फिक्स टैक्स किए हैं एसएमईज के लिए, जो मतलब 0.25%, 25% इस तरह उन्होंने फिक्स किए हैं, जो 150 मिलियन और 100 मिलियन जिनका टर्नओवर है. उसके बाद पेरिशेबल प्रोडक्ट्स के लिए इन्होंने कहा है कि उसके लिए कुछ ना कुछ प्लान किया जाएगा, और फैसिलिटेशन इन एक्सपोर्ट की बात की गई है. अब प्रॉब्लम्स हैं स्पेसिफिक टू फूड एंड एग्रीकल्चर. I will quote few examples that we are mainly facing the per acre yield issue. For example, in wheat, New Zealand is producing 10 million ton per hectare, UK 8 million ton per hectare, Zambia 7 million ton per hectare, and in Pakistan not million metric ton. And Pakistan is in 29 number. And Pakistan producing 3 metric ton per hectare, which is not 3, I think 2.5 or 2.6 metric ton per hectare. Similarly, in cotton, Australia is producing 2071 kg per hectare. China producing 1871 kg per hectare. Brazil producing 1803 kg per hectare, and Pakistan is at number 30. Pakistan producing 550 kg only per hectare. What are the अब लास्ट पे मैं इसकी 2 suggestions देना चाहूंगा और इस पे अपनी बात को conclude कर दूंगा. 2 main things which we can do. One, agriculture expenditure of developing countries of agriculture GDP has averaged 10%, while in developed countries in America and others in 19.5 to 20%. कि जो एग्रीकल्चर की डेवलपमेंट में जीडीपी है वो हमारा इसकी डेवलपमेंट के लिए बहुत कम हम यूज कर रहे हैं, जिसकी वजह से हमारे ये सारे प्रॉब्लम्स आ रहे हैं. सेकंड जो मेन इशू है कि ऑन एवरेज डेवलपिंग कंट्री स्पेंड 0.5% of the agricultural GDP on R&D. In Pakistan, we are spending 0.023% of GDP on R&D, while in developed countries, minimum जो expenditure है वो 1.4% है for youth, और जो 3.4 तक भी है. I think in America they are expending 3.4% of agricultural GDP on R&D. And इसी से रिलेटेड एक चीज है कि जो हमारी लोकल रिसर्च हो रही है वो ट्रांसफर नहीं हो रही है. देयर इज अ गैप इन इंडस्ट्री एंड एकेडमिया लिंकेज में भी गैप है. अगर कोई रिसर्च हो भी रही है तो वो ट्रांसफर नहीं हो रही, उससे हम बेनिफिट्स नहीं ले रहे. दीज आर द 2 मेन पॉइंट्स अकॉर्डिंग टू माय पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. These are 2 main things we are lacking, and we should focus on these things, especially for agriculture and food sectors. Thank you.
अच्छा, बहुत शुक्रिया डॉक्टर कासिद. आई थिंक सिंस गवर्नमेंट ने इस दफ़ा फोकस किया एग्रीकल्चर को, और आपने जो एग्रीकल्चर के जो चैलेंजेस हैं उनको हाईलाइट किया. बीइंग एग्रेरियन कंट्री, हमारा मेरा ख्याल है कि ऑयल की इंपोर्ट के बाद सबसे बड़ा इंपोर्ट एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्ट्स है, जिसमें एडिबल ऑयल है और जो ना चाय वगैरह है. और दूसरी तरफ हमें डोमेस्टिक लेवल के ऊपर एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्टिविटी का इशू है, जो आपने मुख्तलिफ स्टैटिस्टिक्स दिए और कंपैरिजन किया यील्ड को बाकी मुल्क से. और दिस इज आल्सो इंटरेस्टिंग दैट हमारा तकरीबन 40% वेस्टेज है एग्रीकल्चर में. थिंग्स इन टर्म्स कि आपका देयर इज अ स्ट्रांग नेक्सस ऑफ वाटर विद एग्रीकल्चर. वन साइड एग्रीकल्चर वेस्टेज इज 40%, on the other side the Indus Basin irrigation system is operating at the efficiency of the 40%, which means the 60% is being wasted. So things in terms of the overall जो है ना scenario in terms of agriculture and the water sector. And last but not least, you have rightly pointed out that the gap which exists between the academia and the industry, I think we have to adopt the triple helix model, in which the conducive environment is provided by the government, then the academia and the industry can more interact with each other to solve the specific sector problems. Thank you. Now I request Dr. Mia Mohammed Akram, who is economist and head of economics department, Government College of Science. Dr. Akram Saab, please, for a very short deliberations, with a humble request. आपका मेरे ख्याल है माइक ऑफ है डॉक्टर साहब.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम.
जी अब आपसे रोजाना मुलाकात होने लगी, 2 दिन पहले भी हुई थी. प्लीज.
आवाज आ रही है आपको?
जी आवाज आ रही है.
जी मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
जी डॉक्टर साहब, आवाज और हाँ तस्वीर भी आ रही है
जी. बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम. I would like to talk on education budget in Pakistan. As far as education is concerned, you know that Pakistan, with a population of 22 crore and 50 lakh persons, only 60% of the population is literate, and out of the total population, 40% is illiterate. While the situation is that in Punjab, 64% of the population is literate, in Sindh 58%, KPK 53%, and in Balochistan 46%. While 22.8 million children, those are out of school in Pakistan. And those children who are taking admission in the schools, 22.7% of those are going to be out from the school. That means the dropout rate in Pakistan, that is 22.7%. And according to the to a report, there was a survey of 189 countries, and Pakistan's number is 152 out of these 189 countries as far as education is concerned. You know that Pakistan has signed an agreement that is known as Education Ancient Declaration and Framework for Action 2015. According to this framework, we have to spend 4% of our GDP on education. And out of the total public spending, we have to spend 15% of the total expenditures on human capital. Well, the situation is that we are spending only 2.3% of the total GDP, which was decreased to 1.5 according to a report, and 1.95 to another report that has been decreased less than 2. This is the situation in Pakistan. While we see that as far as our countries of the region which are around us, Bhutan is spending 7.2% of GDP on education, Nepal 5.5%, Turkey 5.8%, Iran 4%, Afghanistan 4%, Maldives 4%, India 3.8%, Sri Lanka 2.8%, and Bangladesh 1.5%. This is the situation, that we are not spending according to the norms which are present all over the world, and according to the world standard, we have to spend 4% of our GDP. While our previous, at the time of General Musharraf, it was said that we shall increase it to 4% of the GDP, and in the future it will go to the 7% of the GDP. But the situation is that only 2% or 2.1234% we are spending on the GDP. This is the factual position, and that is the reason the literacy rate have not been increased more than 60% in many years, and we are standing on 58%, 57%, 59%, and now it is said that it is 60%. And in the last 2 or 3 years, the same is the figure which is told to us. And now we see that as far as the federal budget is concerned, we have allocated the amount that is 108 billion rupees have been allocated for the higher education. And out of this, only 66.2 billion have been allocated for the help to the universities, while 37 billion will be given for the development purpose. And if we compare it with the previous year's budget, we see that in 2017, 63.1 billion rupees were allocated for the higher education for the non-development purpose. And in 2018 to 19, this figure was 65.02 billion. And 2019-20, it was 64%. It means it was decreased in that year. And in 2021, it was remained at the same level, that is 64.1 billion. And now it has been increased to 66.2 billion rupees. That means there is only 2.15 billion rupees have been increased in the non-development budget. And you all know that this non-development budget, this is given to the universities, and this is necessary for the upgradation and the to meet the expenditures of the universities. it was demanded by the different corners from Pakistan, from the Pakistan universities and all Pakistan universities federations, that at least 150 billion rupees should be allocated this purpose. While there is increase of only 2.15 billion rupees, and we are standing at 66.25 billion rupees at this time. It means this is less than 50% of the demand which is demanded by the people who are working in the universities and in the federations. So this is the situation, and this shows our concern with the higher education, which is necessary for the development of any country. And as you know that at this time, the education is provincial concern, and now most of the aspects of the education have been transferred to the to different to the provinces. And if we see that Punjab budget, which has been allocated for education this year, that is 442 billion rupees. And it means that 13% increase have been made there. In Sindh, there are 277.5 billion rupees have been allocated, which is there is an increase of 13.5% from the previous budget. And in KPK, 236 billion rupees have been allocated for this purpose. And again, there is 13% increase in the budget of education in KPK, while 17% have been increased in Balochistan. Now, in 2 or 3 minutes, I would like to give you a few suggestions. اور میں ہمیشہ کہا کرتا ہوں کہ اپنی زبان میں اگر بات کی جائے تو زیادہ ذرا سمجھ آتی ہے، اس لیے اپنی زبان میں یہ چند ایک تجاویز میں آپ کے سامنے پیش کرنا چاہوں گا۔ ان میں پہلی بات یہ ہے کہ تعلیم کی اہمیت کے پیش نظر جامعات اور HEC کے لیے مختص بجٹ میں خاطر خواہ اضافہ کرنا یہ نہایت ضروری ہے، اور ہم یہاں پہ سفارش کریں گے، میرا خیال ہے کہ ہمیں کرنی چاہیے کہ جامعات کو زیادہ آگے بڑھانے کے لیے اور ان میں تعلیم کے معیار کو اور ریسرچ کے معیار کو بہتر کرنے کے لیے ہم کہیں گے اس سال جو نیا بجٹ اگلے سال کا آ رہا ہے جس کے لیے ہم تجویز کر رہے ہیں، تو دین وی ہیو ٹو انکریز دی ایجوکیشن بجٹ فار ہائر ایجوکیشن. اینڈ اور اس کے لیے جو ضرورت ہے کہ ٹرانسپیرنسی از دی یوز آف دس بجٹ. یہ بہت ضروری ہے کہ جو بجٹ مختص کیا جائے، ایلوکیٹ کیا جائے، وہ پوری ٹرانسپیرنسی کے ساتھ جو ہے اسے استعمال کیا جائے. اس لیے کہ ہمارے یہاں کیفیت یہ ہوتی ہے کہ پہلی بات یہ کہ بجٹ جو ایلوکیٹ کیا جاتا ہے دیٹ از ناٹ یوٹیلائز، پہلی بات یہ ہے. اور جو یوٹیلائز کیا جاتا ہے اس میں کرپشن کا عنصر جو ہے بہت زیادہ بعض جگہ پہ پایا جاتا ہے. دس شوڈ بی اوائڈڈ ان آل ریسپیکٹس. اور پھر یہ کہ اس کے بجٹ کے یوز کو جو ہے وہ ایزی کیا جائے. اس کے اندر جتنی مشکلات جو ہے لوگوں کو یعنی اس میں اداروں کو پیش آتی ہے کہ وہ بجٹ پوری طرح سے ایلوکیٹ ہو ہی نہیں پاتا، اور ایٹ دا اینڈ جو ہے وہ میرے پاس اس وقت اعداد و شمار موجود ہے. آئی کین ٹیل یو کہ بعض سالوں کے اندر ایون پنجاب کے اندر 51% جو ہے وہ بجٹ جو ہے وہ یوز کیا گیا، اور بعض اسی طرح سے 79% بجٹ جو ہے وہ بلوچستان میں جو ہے وہ لیپس ہو گیا. سو اس کا بہترین استعمال کرنے کی ضرورت ہے. اور تیسرا یہ کہ تعلیمی بجٹ کو بڑھاتے ہوئے جو ہے اس کو 4% تک لانے کی، 4% آف دا GDP اس کو انکریز کرنے کی ضرورت ہے. اور اس کا میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ اسی سال سے اگر آغاز ہو جائے تو ہم مستقبل میں اپنی قوم کو زیادہ بہتر تعلیم و تربیت کی صورت میں آگے بڑھا سکتے ہیں. پھر اسی طرح سے اسٹینڈرڈ آف ایجوکیشن جو ہے اس کو بڑھانے کے لیے ظاہر ہے کہ اس کے لیے پلان بھی کرنے کی ضرورت ہے. ریسرچ اینڈ ڈیولپمنٹ کے اوپر ایکسپینڈیچرز جو ہیں اور اس کے لیے فنڈز جو ہے وہ مہیا کرنا بھی ضروری ہے. اور اس میں خاص طور پہ ٹیچرز کا جو اسٹینڈرڈ آف لیونگ ہے اس کو بہتر کرنے کے لیے اس کے لیے بھی ہمیں اساتذہ کے حوالے سے اپنی بہتر جو ہے وہ پلان کرنا ہوگا، اور اس کے لیے بجٹ کے اندر جو ہے ہمیں چیزیں لانی چاہیے. اسی طرح سے معاشرے میں غربت جس انداز میں بڑھ رہی ہے، پاورٹی انکریز مسلسل ہو رہی ہے، اور خاص طور پر کووڈ-19 کے بعد تو اس میں خاصا اضافہ ہوا ہے. تو اس حوالے سے اسٹوڈنٹس میں ایجوکیشن کو زیادہ بہتر سہولیات دینے کے لیے وی ہیو ٹو پرووائڈ ایجوکیشنل اسٹائپنڈ، اور ان کی تعلیمی ضروریات پورا کرنے کے لیے اس کے حوالے سے بھی مزید اقدامات کی ضرورت ہے اس بجٹ کے اندر. इसी तरह से विमेन एजुकेशन और उनकी ट्रेनिंग और तरबियत का जो मामला है उसके हवाले से जो विमेन यूनिवर्सिटीज़ हैं उनके क़याम के लिए भी हम तजवीज़ करते हैं कि मज़ीद फंड्स जो हैं मुख्तस किए जाएँ और इससे वो ज़्यादा बेहतर एटमॉस्फेयर के अंदर एजुकेशन हासिल कर सकेंगी। और कॉलेजेस में को जामियात में तब्दील करने का, यानी कॉलेजेस को जिस तरह से यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में तब्दील किया जा रहा है, और इसमें जो बजट एलोकेट किया जाता है वो नई यूनिवर्सिटीज़ बनाने के लिए नहीं होता, बल्कि पुराने कॉलेजेस को यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में कन्वर्ट करने के लिए होता है। और ज़ाहिर है कि ये किसी तौर पे भी जो है वो रिकमेंडेबल नहीं है कि आप कॉलेजेस को जो है यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के अंदर चेंज करें। आप नई यूनिवर्सिटीज़ जो है उनको लेकर आएँ, उनको इस्टेब्लिश करें, लेकिन उसके लिए अलग से बजट रखा जाए, ना कि कॉलेजेस को जो है वो आप अपग्रेड करके यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के अंदर जो है वो तब्दील कर दें। इसी तरह से एक तजवीज़ हमारी ये है कि जो पसमानदा इलाके हैं, उन इलाकों में स्कूलों से लेके जामियात तक की तालीम के हवाले से स्टूडेंट्स को मौक़े मुहैया होनी चाहिए, और इसके लिए उन दूर दराज इलाकों के अंदर जो है वो स्कूल्स, कॉलेजेस, यूनिवर्सिटीज़ जो हैं वो कायम किए जाएँ, उनके लिए फंड्स जो हैं वो एलोकेट किए जाएँ, फेडरल सतह के ऊपर भी और प्रोविंशियल सतह के ऊपर भी, ताकि शहरों के ऊपर बर्डन जो है वो निस्बतन कम हो सके और बच्चों को ज़्यादा बेहतर जो है वो मौक़े मिल सकें। आखिर में इस बात को भी मैं कहूँगा कि जो डेवलपमेंट बजट है उस जो एलोकेट किया जाता है उसका सही इस्तेमाल, उसके लिए इक़दाम किए जाएँ। रिसर्च के लिए ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा रिसोर्सेज जो हैं इसके हवाले से भी मज़ीद इक़दाम की ज़रूरत है। और यूज़ ऑफ रिसोर्सेज के हवाले से मैं कहूँगा कि जो सियासी मुदाखलत होती है मुख्तलिफ यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के अंदर, इदारों के अंदर, उस सियासी मुदाखलत को रोक कर जो, और इसी तरह से अकरबा परवरी जो है ये बहुत ज़्यादा, इसके वजह से हमारे वसाइल बहुत सारे ज़ाया होते हैं। और सेकंड लास्ट ये है कि मौजूदा इदारों की जो रियल जो उनकी ज़रूरियात हैं और मिसिंग फैसिलिटीज़ हैं उनको पूरा करने के लिए भी पूरा एक प्लान जो है वो बजट के अंदर होना चाहिए, ताकि हम इन बेसिक फैसिलिटीज़ को स्टूडेंट्स को दे सकें। और आखिरी बात इसी में मेरी तजावीज़ के अंदर ये है कि टेक्निकल एजुकेशन के फ़रोग़ के लिए हम बहुत ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं कर सके, इस हवाले से भी हमें अपने बजट के अंदर जो है वो मज़ीद फंड्स जो है एलोकेट करनी चाहिए, ताकि अपनी नस्ल को, नस्ल नौ को ज़्यादा बेहतर तौर पे हम फैसिलिटेट कर सकें। ये मेरी तजावीज़ हैं इस बजट के लिए। आपका बहुत
बहुत शुक्रिया डॉक्टर अकरम साहब। आई थिंक you have rightly indicated the gap which exists between our policy and the planning. On one side, we at the policy level, our commitments are very high that education sector is one of our key area for which we are pursuing our goals in accordance with the SDGs or the National Development Goals. But at the planning stage, the allocations are very low, which has to be rationalized. And at all level, at all the three levels, primary level, secondary level, which include technical, vocational, and as well as the higher education level. Plus, there is a serious challenge with respect to the, on one side, the allocation is the challenge. On the other side is its judicious and transparent utilization of those resources is again challenge, which is more relevant with the institutional capacity to utilize those resources. If we want to pursue a knowledge-based economy, we have to focus the education sector at the multiple level. After I think the quantity phase has already been crossed, we have to focus on the quality as well as the relevance of the education. Thank you, Dr. Now, I would like to request Amir Zafar Durrani Saab, who is an international expert and involved in number of projects. He has an extensive experience to work with the World Bank in almost more than 24 countries. I think he's well versed with the development sector of the developing countries and the role of international organizations in the socio-economic development. I request him to please give his insight about the budget, and I would be happy if he's going to comment like that, since this budget is since the IMF has not taken on board on this budget. So do you think this budget is a sustainable budget or a unsustainable budget? Thank you. Ji, please.
Most welcome, Raj Sahab. Assalamu alaikum to everybody. Mera pehle to main bata dun ki I was called here to answer questions from students. So I have given extensive views on the budget. I think the people here have also commented on the budget. But from your particular question, let me just state 2 or 3 things. I think the first and foremost, there is no question of a budget being sustainable or being unsustainable. A budget is a budget is a budget. I mean, it's basically a document that allocates money to a plan. Now, the question is, what is the plan of the government? And I think this has been raised by more than a few people. People get lost in the numbers about collection, revenue, spending. But as you rightly pointed out, and I think also the speaker before you, let's just look at the federal level. The total budget spending has been less than 70% of the allocation. So what is the point of making these predictions? I think more important than these predictions is really letting the government and the people know in the parliament and outside the legislature that what is it exactly that the government intends to do. And I think on that, a more guiding document, although it is the first time they've done so, is the Planning Commission document on the government's plan. Right. So like every time, there was the Vision 2030, then the 2035, and then there was some other vision. But this time they have actually put out an annual budget supporting document. I suggest all students and teachers to actually go through that. It's on the Planning Commission website. This is what underwrites the 7 or 6 pillars that underwrite the budget. So one of the things on the budget, barring the fact that, about the fund being on board or not being on board, as we already know that this review that was supposed to take place in June has already been requested to be merged with the next review. And I think that is only appropriate because to have a discussion with the fund, I think it's really not a good idea to plan a budgetary review with the fund or a program review with the fund right about when you're also having to review the main budget or passing of the main budget in the parliament, and both at the federal and the provincial level. So I think that's a good step. Whoever planned this for June should have actually not allowed the fund to do it in June anyways, because this is the time that we have to discuss amongst ourselves. And then the second part of it is on the sustainability. I think there are more than a few surprises that are going to come our way. I've talked about this before on TV, but also let me just, for the students' benefit, let me give you an idea. I mean, we tried, despite everybody, by December, everyone was talking about 2% growth and an Indian rate of growth and blah, 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 or as they used to call a Nehru rate of growth. However, things have turned out to be quite different. And I think we should understand what have we done right. And I think that what we did right, which again, by December, you could see a lot of us saying that, this prediction of a 4%, of whether it's a 2% or less than 2% growth is just not plausible. And I think there was no surprise, to be very honest. I mean, for some of us who do not sit in the Planning Commission or in the Q block, but actually spend their time roaming around Pakistan, as I'm sure all of you do, we knew the state of the agriculture. We also knew that, because of the construction package and the fact that they had allowed wealth to be parked without question, they extended that package beyond December. And I hear that it's now going to be extended again beyond June. So if you look at that, the construction industry comes with more than 70 affiliated industries. And when you get those 70 affiliated industries in progress, and obviously it had a double impact. One, that we never let the consumption fall by the support through the pandemic that we provided through the ASAS program. You can think what you think, but I think that support made a huge difference so that the consumption could stay. Secondly, for those vocational workers and laborers who were standing idle, who were going to be most impacted, the fact that they allowed construction traffic and related activities in cities while actually closing down more congested trade and retail areas, I think was a very good step. So, I don't know, but Dr. Ashfaq Hassan has also said about this. I actually, sort of have to agree with them on this one thing, that in fact, when the numbers come home, you will realize that actually we may have hit the 5% mark, this past year. So the third point then stands, what is it that we are planning to do in terms of growth? So, God willing, I think we are going to be doing better unless we have some major upheaval or, God forbid, any kind of a disaster. But other than that, I think we're good. Now, on the revenue side and on the expenditure side, as I told you in the beginning, this is really a false way of looking at life, because we know for a fact that we can collect more revenue. The point here on revenue collection is, what I think the budget has not stressed enough is that we need to have the provinces, other than the NFC award, we need to have them collect more money. The local governments, the cities and the provinces, they need to collect more money. If they do that, some of this additional collection is not required. So it's a bit like saying, let's say we live in a family and there are 5 earning members, and everything they say, no, daddy is going to earn the money. Well, daddy ain't going to earn all the money, because I have educated all of you, in this case the provinces, and I've also educated my grandchildren. Why are they not earning and contributing to the kitty in the family? So this is pretty much how the nation works the world over, and I think that is where more focus needs to be given, the local revenue mobilization effort. So last but not least, I think there are some other good things which I hope they continue, which is especially the support to the IT sector, the support to the SMEs. And I think I'll stop here because I thought I was going to answer questions. So, I would like to just open the floor on that. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you, sir, for your kind considerations. One of our students has coined a question. He's saying that how much this budget is youth friendly. Just government, when came in power, it was said that this government will contribute towards youth activism, or they will announce some policies or actual plans. We have seen there are, as per our student, they say they have not seen any specific.
I get your question. Sorry, I only have 10 more minutes, so मैं आपका सवाल समझ गया हूँ. मैं उन स्टूडेंट से, अगर वो अपने आप को खुद आइडेंटिफाई कर लें, पहले उनसे सवाल ये पूछूंगा कि यूथ फ्रेंडली बजट होता क्या है. पहले तो मुझे वो ये समझा दें कि हुकूमत आपको वहाँ पैसे मुख्तस करे जिसमें लिखा हुआ हो कि भाई ये जो बजट का हिस्सा है ये मैं यूथ के लिए नौकरियां दूंगा या दूंगी और ये बजट वहाँ चला गया. तो ये तो होता नहीं है. अब हम कैसे चेक करते हैं कि यूथ फ्रेंडली बजट है? हम सबसे पहले वो एक्टिविटीज देखते हैं जिनके अंदर, वो सेक्टर्स देखते हैं जहां यूथ ज्यादा कार फरमाए. वो सेक्टर्स क्या हैं? स्मॉल एंड मीडियम एंटरप्राइज, क्योंकि यूथ जो खुद नौकरी करना चाहते हैं, कारोबार करना चाहते हैं या नौकरी क्रिएट करना चाहते हैं, उनको क्या मराद दी जा रही हैं. उसके बाद हम देखते हैं कि IT और टेलीकॉम, IT और इनकी सर्विसेज के जो सेक्टर्स होते हैं उसमें हुकूमत ने क्या मराद दी हैं. तो बजट से तो इसका ताल्लुक कुछ नहीं होता है. बजट से, मैं फिर कहता हूँ, इसका प्लानिंग से ताल्लुक होता है. ये नहीं होता कि पैसे रखे जाते हैं ये काम करने के लिए. तीसरी चीज कि अगर आपको पूछना चाहें, जो आपको एहसास के मद में पैसे मिल रहे हैं, उसके अंदर भी अगर आप देखें कि जितना आपको सपोर्ट मिल रहा है, उस सपोर्ट में आपका तकरीबन 40% यूथ है. यानी इनकम्स को ग्रो करने की वहां पे कोशिश जारी है. आखिरी और सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज कि जो टूरिज्म की मद में, ये आप ना समझिए कि एजुकेशन की मद में जो बजट जाता है वो यूथ को सपोर्ट करता है. ये बिल्कुल गलत है. एजुकेशन की मद में जो बजट जाता है वो उसी तरह एफिशिएंटली या इनएफिशिएंटली खर्च होता है जितना आप अपनी ब्यूरोक्रेसी पे खर्च करते हैं. तो आई होप कि आपके सवाल का जवाब मिल गया, नहीं तो मैं और दे सकता हूँ. थैंक यू जी.
Thank you, sir, for your time and your valuable input for our students. Now we would like to have another speaker, Dr. Faisal Qadri from University of Karachi. He's an established economist. Sir, floor is towards Dr. Faisal Qadri, sir.
बहुत शुक्रिया जी, मुझे इजाजत दीजिए. फैसल भाई, वेलकम. अस्सलाम वालेकुम. तो मैं आप इजाजत चाहूंगा. अस्सलाम वालेकुम.
वालेकुम अस्सलाम. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. वालेकुम अस्सलाम. सबसे पहले तो मैं रिफा इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ पब्लिक पॉलिसी, रिफा इंटरनेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट की इंतजामिया, खुसूसन डॉक्टर राशिद आफ्ताब और काशिफ ज़हीर साहब का शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ. चूँकि सेशन के सामीन और नाजरीन के अंदर तलबा के साथ साथ मुख्तलिफ शोबे ज़िंदगी से ताल्लुक़ रखने वाले अफराद मौजूद हैं, तो उनके सामने अपनी सादा और आम फहम अंदाज के अंदर अपनी गुजारिशात पेश करूँगा मुख्तसर वक्त में. माशियात के एक तालिब इल्म की हैसियत से और सियासत पर और समाजी हालात पर नज़र रखने वाले एक फ़र्द की हैसियत से मौजूदा बजट एक ऐसा बजट दिखाई दे रहा है जिसके अंदर सियासी, मुल्की और मुल्क के अंदर अंदरूनी اور عالمی سیاست کے اثرات نمایاں ہیں. مثال کے طور پہ ٹیکس کلیکشن کا جو ہدف رکھا گیا، جیسے کہ آپ کے علم میں ہے کہ 5,830 ارب روپے کا جو ہدف رکھا گیا، جو کہ پچھلے سال کے ہدف کے مقابلے میں 24% زیادہ ہے. اور اس ہدف کے کو اگر آپ اس کا موازنہ کریں کہ اس ہدف کے حصول کے لیے جس ذرائع پر انحصار کیا گیا ہے ان کو اگر غیر حقیقت پسندانہ کہا جائے تو بھیجا نہ ہوگا. مجھ سے پہلے آنے والے افراد اس بجٹ کے مثبت پہلوؤں کی طرف نشاندہی کر چکے ہیں، تو مختصر وقت میں ان چیزوں کی طرف نشاندہی کرنا چاہ رہا ہوں جس میں اصلاح کی کچھ ضرورت ہے. تو یہ جس ہدف کا تعین کیا گیا ہے، یہ اس کو اگر غیر حقیقت پسندانہ کہا جائے تو بھیجا نہ ہوگا، کیونکہ 60 سے 70 ہزار ریٹیلرز جن کو ٹیکس نیٹ کے اندر اور پی او ایس کے اندر لانے، یعنی پوائنٹ آف اسکیل کے اندر لانے کی کوشش کی جا رہی ہے. یہ اقدام یا پھر اسمگلنگ کی ڈیفینیشن کے اندر جو تبدیلی کی گئی ہے، جس کے نتیجے میں ریٹیلرز کو بھی اس کی ڈیفینیشن میں شامل کیا گیا ہے، یہ سارے اقدامات لانگ ٹرم ٹیکس ریفارمز کا حصہ تو بنائے جا سکتے ہیں، لیکن شارٹ ٹرمز یعنی ایک فسکل ایئر کے اندر ان تمام چیزوں پر عمل درآمد کرنا اور اس کے نتیجے میں ٹیکس اہداف کا حصول بہت مشکل ہے. اور اس کے اثرات آپ کو پہلے کوارٹر میں یعنی سپتمبر کے پہلے ہفتے میں نظر آنا شروع ہو جائیں گے، کہ جب یہ ٹیکس کے اہداف کا حصول مشکل ہو جائے گا تو بہت زیادہ قوی امکانات ہے کہ سپتمبر کے پہلے ہفتے میں منی بجٹ کی طرف جانا پڑے. وہ خارج از امکان نہیں. دوسری جانب جو پیٹرولیم لیوی کی بات کی گئی، جس کے لیے 610 ارب روپے کا ٹارگٹ رکھا گیا ہے، اس کے نتیجے میں جیسے کہ آپ لوگوں نے یعنی عوام نے یہ چیز محسوس کرنا شروع کر بھی دی ہے، اور آنے والے 1 مہینے سے لے کے 3 مہینے تک یہ بہت زیادہ نمایاں ہو جائے گی. جب پیٹرولیم کی مصنوعات کی قیمتوں میں اضافہ ہوگا، ڈیزل کی قیمت میں اضافہ ہوگا، بجلی کی قیمت میں اضافہ ہوگا، تو اس کے اثرات انفلیشن پہ پڑیں گے. اور جس طرح سے انفلیشن کو کنٹین کرنے کی بات کی جا رہی ہے، یہ بہت مشکل دکھائی دے رہا ہے. یعنی اگلے 3 مہینوں کے اندر ہی انفلیشن کے اندر بے تحاشا اضافے کا خدشہ ہے. اور جیسے ہمارے پالیسی میکرز کے علم میں ہے کہ عام آدمی کی زندگی سے براہ راست تعلق انفلیشن کا ہے. مختلف معاشی اشاریے، یعنی اگر آپ ریمیٹنسز کی بات کر لیں یا ٹریڈ ڈیفیسٹ کی بات کر لیں، اس میں کمی یا اضافے کو لوگ زیادہ نہیں سمجھتے، لیکن مہنگائی میں ہونے والے اضافات براہ راست اس کا تعلق ان کی زندگیوں سے ہے، تو وہ اس کو زیادہ آسانی سے سمجھتے ہیں. تو اگر انفلیشن میں بھی اضافہ ہو جاتا ہے اگلے اسی کوارٹر میں یعنی 2-3 مہینے کے دوران، تو ان اہداف کا حصول مشکل ہو جائے گا، جس کے حوالے سے اس بجٹ کو پرو گروتھ بجٹ کہا جاتا ہے. ایک اور بات جو انتہائی اہم ہے، وہ اس کو بھی ہمارے پالیسی سازوں کو سمجھنے کی ضرورت ہے کہ جب کبھی بھی کسی معاشی اشاریے یعنی کسی بھی اکنامک انڈیکیٹر کو اگر آپ سیاسی فائدے کے لیے استعمال کرتے ہیں تو اس کے اثرات اچھے نہیں ہوتے. گزشتہ 6-7 مہینے سے مختلف فورمز پر ذرائع ابلاغ اس چیز کو باور کرا رہے ہیں کہ کرنٹ اکاؤنٹ ڈیفیسٹ جو کم ہو رہا ہے یا ٹریڈ ڈیفیسٹ جو کم ہو رہا ہے، یہ حکومت کی معاشی پالیسی کے ثمرات کا نتیجہ ہے. یعنی بہتر معاشی پالیسی کے نتیجے میں ٹریڈ ڈیفیسٹ کم ہو رہا ہے یا آپ کے پاس کرنٹ اکاؤنٹ ڈیفیسٹ کم ہو رہا ہے. اگر کامیابی کا یہی معیار ہے تو آنے والے ہر کوارٹر میں آپ دیکھیں گے کہ اب کرنٹ اکاؤنٹ ڈیفیسٹ بھی بڑھے گا اور ٹریڈ ڈیفیسٹ بھی بڑھے گا. تو ان لوگوں کی مشکلات بڑھ جائیں گی جو اس چیز کو آپ کی کامیابی سمجھ رہے تھے اور آپ کا دفاع کر رہے تھے. اگر کرنٹ اکاؤنٹ ڈیفیسٹ کا کم ہونا آپ کی کامیابی تھی تو کیا اس کو آپ کی ناکامی سمجھا جائے؟ یہ درست نہیں ہے. تو ضرورت اس بات کی ہے کہ معاشی اشاریوں کی ٹیکنیکلٹیز میں الجھائے بغیر لوگوں کو صحیح طریقے سے رہنمائی کی جائے تاکہ وہ ان کو آپ سے غیر معمولی امیدیں اور جس کے نتیجے میں غیر معمولی مایوسی نہ ہو، ان کو حقیقی صورتحال سے آگاہ کیا جائے. اسی طرح کا ایک معاملہ ریمیٹنسز کے حوالے سے بھی ہے. ریمیٹنسز کو براہ راست لوگوں کی حب الوطنی سے جوڑا جا رہا ہے اور اس کو حکومت اور اسٹیٹ بینک آف پاکستان کے اقدامات سے جوڑا جا رہا ہے. حقیقت یہ ہے کہ حکومت اور اسٹیٹ بینک آف پاکستان کے اقدامات کے نتیجے میں اور اس کے مثبت اثرات سے کوئی اختلاف نہیں ہے کسی کو. اسپیشلی پاکستان ریمیٹنس جو انیشیٹو ہے اس کے بہت مثبت اثرات ہیں. لیکن دوسری جانب لاک ڈاؤن یا ہنڈی کا رک جانا، اس کے نتیجے میں جو ریمیٹنسز میں اضافہ ہوا ہے، تو اس کو بھی اگر اسی سائٹ پر لے لیا جائے کہ حکومت کی کامیابی کی وجہ سے یا اعتماد کی وجہ سے لوگ پیسے بھیج رہے ہیں، تو یہ حقیقت پر معمول نہیں ہے. ایک مسئلہ اور بھی ہے، اس کو بھی سمجھنا ضروری ہے. کہ دیکھیں بتایا جا رہا ہے کہ اچھا یہ بات بالکل یقیناً درست ہے کہ جو لوگ بیرون ملک پاکستانی ہیں ان کی حب الوطنی किसी भी शक व शुबे से बाला तर है, वो भी उतने ही मुहब्बे वतन है जितने मैं और आप हैं। लेकिन हकीकत ये कि वो लोग ये रकम स्टेट बैंक ऑफ पाकिस्तान को या गवर्नमेंट ऑफ पाकिस्तान को नहीं भेज रहे, वो ये रकम अपने घर वालों को भेज रहे हैं। अब अगर यहाँ पाकिस्तान में लॉकडाउन की वजह से या माशी सूरत हाल में अबतरी की वजह से या जॉबलेसनेस की वजह से यहाँ उनके घर वालों की माशी मुश्किलात में इजाफा हो रहा है, तो उनको रकम पहले के मुकाबले में ज्यादा भेजना पड़ रही है। ये भी एक फैक्टर है जिसको ज़राए ब्लाग के जरिए नहीं बताया जा रहा, तो इसको हमें समझने की जरूरत है। इसकी वजह यह है कि अगर अगले 1, 2, 3 महीने के बाद कोई नई लहर नहीं आती और अल्लाह करे कि कोविड की मजीद कोई लहर ना आए और पूरी दुनिया अगर नॉर्मलाइजेशन की तरफ जाएगी, तो यहाँ पाकिस्तान में रेमिटेंसेस इनफ्लो में कमी के इम्कानात हैं। जरूरत इस बात की है कि जो भी अहदाफ रखे जाएं वो हकीकत पसंदाना हो। और आखिर में एक बात, हमारे मोहतरम वजीर आजम साहब को अक्सर क्रिकेट की मिसालें दिया करते हैं और क्रिकेट की मिसालों को बखूबी समझते भी हैं, तो उनके लिए तमाम सूरत हाल को क्रिकेट के ही अंदाज में बताया जा रहा है कि हमारे कैप्टन साहब अपनी टीम के हमरा 50 ओवर के लिए यानी 5 साल के लिए इस पिच पर उतरे थे। टारगेट इंतहाई मुश्किल था, तो इस टीम के 30 ओवर्स गुजर चुके हैं। अगर सिर्फ माशी महाज का जायजा लें तो उसकी बात करें तो आपके मेन प्लेयर जो मैच विनिंग प्लेयर थे वो मोहतरम असद उमर साहब थे। उनको ओपनर की हैसियत से पिच पे उतारा गया। जारहाना खेल के मुजाहरा के बाद उनको पवेलियन में लौटना पड़ा। वन डाउन में जनाब हफीज शेख साहब तशरीफ लाए जो कि किसी दूसरी टीम के खिलाड़ी थे, लेकिन उन्होंने आपके खेल को आगे बढ़ाया, लेकिन उनको भी पवेलियन पे की तरफ लौटना पड़ा। उसके बाद हमाद अजहर साहब और अब शौकत तरीन साहब हैं जिनको भी दूसरी टीम से बुलाया गया है। टारगेट अचीव करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, वो आपका साथ देने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, लेकिन अब आपके पास सिर्फ 20 ओवर रह गए। आपके मुद्दाओं का इस्तेराब बढ़ता जा रहा है, तो आपको अपनी स्ट्रेटेजी में नजरसानी की जरूरत है। शुक्रिया।
बहुत शुक्रिया डॉक्टर फैसल साहब। ख़ास तौर पे आपने वो जो कोरिलेट किया है कि 2/3 ओवर ख़त्म हो चुके हैं और सिर्फ थोड़े से रह गए और अभी तक जो है ना हम जो है ना शायद इकोनॉमिक स्ट्रेटजी को हम जो है ना डिफाइन नहीं कर पाए कि क्या हमारी स्ट्रेटजी होनी चाहिए। आपने मेरे ख्याल है कि वो जो मोस्ट ऑफ द एस्पेक्ट्स विच आर रिलेटेड विद द बजट एज फार एज द ओवरऑल इकोनॉमिक एनवायरनमेंट के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में जो आपने इन्फ्लेशन की बात की, ट्रेड और करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट की बात की, आपने रेमिटेंसेस की के डायनेमिक्स की बात की, जो वेरियस फैक्टर्स हैं इन्वॉल्व हैं रेमिटेंसेस में, प्लस आपने एक बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट बात की कि जो टारगेट्स के जो हम लोगों ने ईयर मार्क किए हैं, जो टारगेट्स ईयर मार्क किए हैं, वी हैव टू लुक इनटू इट वेदर दोस टारगेट्स आर रियलिस्टिक, नंबर वन। सेकंड, द assumptions जो बेस्ड हैं उन टारगेट्स की, क्या वो assumptions एविडेंस बेस्ड assumptions हैं या नहीं है, तो which has to be look into it for developing अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं स्टेबलाइजेशन के बाद हम ग्रोथ की तरफ आगे हैं, तो ग्रोथ के बाद जो है ना हमें वी हैव टू लुक फॉरवर्ड एक रियलिस्टिक ग्रोथ, जिस मुल्क के अंदर 2.1% के करीब पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ हो, अगर 3% अब 3.5% की जीडीपी ग्रोथ हो, तो वो मेरा ख्याल है कि इतनी रियलिस्टिक ग्रोथ नहीं होती है। थैंक यू डॉक्टर फैसल, आप ऑलवेज काइंड एनफ, मोहब्बत है आपकी, यू आर ऑलवेज विद अस एंड always give a very insight of the economic issue. I am of the firm believer the issue is not ठीक है, बजट जो है एक डॉक्यूमेंट होता है जो फिगर्स के बेसिस के ऊपर होता है, हमने अपनी बैलेंस शीट को बैलेंस करना होता है, बट जो उससे रिलेटेड काम है असल उसको फोकस करना चाहिए, जो कि स्ट्रक्चरल चेंजेस की ज़रूरत है हमारे इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम के अंदर। सो नाइस, जज़ाकल्लाह, इंशाल्लाह फिर बहुत शुक्रिया जी, थैंक्स टू ऑल ऑफ यू फ्रॉम। अब हम लोग अपने सेशन को क्लोज करते हैं और वंस अगेन थैंक्स टू ऑल द panelists, distinguished speakers for contributing a very valuable input in terms of the financial bill 2021 and 22. We are going to develop a report comprises of your recommendations which will be shared with you as well as with the other relevant stakeholder. Jazakallah khair. Fi aman Allah.